Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining the first demo of Optmyzr for 2015. My name is Frederick Valles. I'm one of the 3 co-founders of Optmyzr. And what I would like to do is take a look at some of the features we've launched in 2014. 2014 was a pretty busy year for us. We've got lots of new stuff in the works based on all of the user feedback that we've gotten. So I wanted to run down some of those things that we've built, some of the things that we're currently still building and that are available in private beta. And so hopefully give you a flavor of what you'll be able to do using the Optmyzr toolset to make your 2015 off to a good start, hopefully. So I'll give people just another minute here to join, since I did switch it from a regular Hangout to a Hangout on Air. And then I'll start doing a screen share and I'll show you some of the new features we've got. Okay, very good. So let me go into screen share and start with the first portion of some of our new features. Okay, so what I'm showing you here is the new MCC Dashboard. So as users of Google, you're all familiar with the MCC Dashboard that Google provides, but we thought at Optmyzr that we could do one better. Now, a lot of people don't realize some of the capabilities that this tool has because it only works for favorite accounts. So here you see a bunch of accounts that are linked up to your Optmyzr. And you can just look at last 30 days of data or some of the other date ranges. But what's cool is if you click some of these accounts and you click on the star, which makes them either a favorite or not a favorite, you can go to the view which shows your favorite accounts. And in favorite account view, you get a second dropdown. And so you can look, for example, at the last 30 days of data, and then you can easily compare it to the previous period, those same days last year, or you can even do a custom date range comparison. So let's take a look at how the accounts are doing, comparing the last 30 days versus the 30 days before that. And so here you see now that the MCC dashboard that we have is actually quite a bit more powerful than Google's. Now you can see that, for example, the impressions for Optmyzr have gone up dramatically. You can hover over that to really see what those underlying numbers are. You can see clicks are up, average CPC is down, quality score is up. And that's another cool thing here, right? So we at Optmyzr, we track your quality score on a daily basis. And because of that, we're able to show quality score changes in your dashboard. So you don't, even if you don't go to the quality score tracking tool, you can still add quality score as a column in here. Now, if you don't see the columns you like, you can take a look through this list and pick any of the items that you're interested in showing on this dashboard. And again, the key trick here, and the thing that a lot of people don't realize, is you have to have the account as a favorite for this capability to be enabled, because we didn't want to do it for people who have hundreds and hundreds of accounts. It just takes too long to load. But by making an account a favorite, you can put it in this view where you get quite a bit more data than what Google would typically provide you. So that's the first thing. That's the first thing that you can take a look at. And by the way, some people are saying that the video quality is not very good. So in YouTube, there's actually a little setting at the bottom where you can change your video resolution. So if you up it to 720p, 720 pixels, it should be a little bit more clear. And you can also, of course, go full screen on that video so you don't have to watch it in a tiny little box. Okay, so let me move on to one of the new features. This one is currently in private beta. This is the Google Analytics in reporting. So I've preloaded a report here. And so what you can see is this is a typical Optmyzr report, but I've called this one Google Analytics Sample Report. And now what you'll notice as you look through this, for example, here a data table of paid search referral sources, is we have your Google CPC data, and we tell you how many users have come in on that, how many new users, how many sessions, how many goal completions were done. But you'll notice we also have ad roll in here. So it turns out that we are advertising on ad roll as well as on Google. So now we are actually able to show that information in a report. In the past, if you were just relying on the widgets that we had for Google AdWords, you could only show your Google data in these reports. But now, because we've connected our Google Analytics account into our Optmyzr, we're able to set up widgets that pull data from Google Analytics. And so you can start doing some really interesting things. Now, in this first view, you see the 3 types of visualizations that we make available. The first one is your KPI cluster. And this is very similar to the KPI cluster you already know from AdWords. So you can just pick a couple of metrics that you think are important and show them as big numbers on the page. The second one that you see here in the middle of the page is a data table. So you can show tables where you pick your dimensions on the left side, and then you pick your metrics that will populate all of these columns. And I'll show you in just a minute how you set this up. But you can put all of the data in a data table. Now, if you want to see the progression over time, we also have a charting widget available. And in the charting widget, you can pick any 2 metrics. So that's very similar to what you would do for AdWords, but now you can pick metrics coming from your Google Analytics account. So let me scroll down a little bit here and give you a flavor of some of the other pieces of data you could show. So for example, you could just highlight how many users and sessions you had. By the way, you'll be able to filter this down. So you could just make it users and sessions coming from paid search or from organic, or from all traffic. And so if you do any level of SEO work for the customer, or you want to show in general how much traffic is coming to their websites, and potentially some of that is being driven by the work you do in AdWords, this is a great way to show that to your customers or to your stakeholders. If you do anything related to organic, you might want to show the organic search keywords. Unfortunately, of course, there's a lot of not provided data from Google, but for those items where we do have the keyword, you'll see it shows up in this table here. And so here in this case, I've picked just 2 of the metrics, but I could have included really any metric that's available from Google Analytics. So I'm not just limited to sessions and goal completions. I could fully customize this to show any of the metrics that exist in GA. We can take a look at goal completions by destination URL. So this is actually quite similar to one of the data insights that we have, the landing page data insight, but it's just a different way of looking at it. And here you could say, well, I'm not just going to look at the AdWords data, but I want to know for all of the landing pages, regardless of how people found those landing pages, how many conversions are we getting? And so that could tell you that, for example, the page tools.optmyzr.com seems to have a much better goal conversion rate than some of the other pages. So that can help you decide which pages you might want to integrate into your AdWords. So here we have goal completion specifically for AdWords destination URLs. And what I've done here is I've segmented it down to just the mobile traffic. So on mobile devices, we have this page, well, actually the not set page is getting most of those completions. So, but it gives you a little bit more insight into what's happening on different device types. You can also look at goal completions by campaign, right? So this is very similar to what you get out of AdWords, but now if you're running campaigns in, say, Bing, or you're running a campaign on AdRoll or on Facebook, here you see an example. So this is a campaign called AdRoll Remarketing 1. So that is now showing up as a line item. You're no longer restricted to just including AdWords data in these reports. You can, of course, have goal completions by referral source. So here you can see that we have some mentions on freeadwordscripts.com, and that's led to 1 goal completion. So very interesting data that you could potentially even use to figure out maybe on the Google Display Network which additional properties you may want to target. If you do any work on social media, of course, you want to know, is that paying off? Am I spending my time in the right way? And here you can see that as far as referrals from social media, we get Facebook, Google+, Twitter, Discuss, Quora, et cetera, et cetera. So now you can actually include that in the report as well. So that report goes on and on. So we've put together this sample, which we can share with you to give you a flavor of what's possible. But let me show you next how you set up these widgets. So the report designer looks exactly like it did in the past. The only difference that you see is once you get into the Google Analytics beta, you get these 3 new widgets available to use. The widgets, I've preloaded a bunch, of course, here because I'm just editing the report that I just showed you. But in a KPI cluster, you simply pick the stats that you want to include. Now you click here, you can include up to 7 stats. And rather than having to know exactly what the stat is and having to scroll, which, you know, the list is quite long, as far as everything that's available from Google Analytics. But you could actually just start typing, right? So if you knew it was like a custom metric 17, you can just type in 17 and automatically this populates with every one of the stats that includes those words that I've just typed. So I don't think there's going to be any data here, but I could just click that box and it would add it to my metrics. Now, the next thing you'll notice is all of these widgets have filters available. And this helps you filter down to certain segments of the traffic. So in some cases, you might want to say all visits, but you might also want to look at new visitors. So maybe if you're looking at time on site, you might want to compare how it's doing for new visitors versus returning visitors. So in that case, you would put up two widgets, and one of them would look at the new visitor segment, and then the other one would have the same stats before returning visitors. You could look at paid search traffic. Paid search obviously includes more than just Google AdWords. That also includes Bing. If you want to look at search traffic, but the organic ones, the non-paid ones, you can segment it this way. You can look at all of the search traffic, people who come to your site directly, people who come through a referral, visits with conversions, transactions, just mobile traffic, traffic that didn't bounce, et cetera, et cetera. So you have quite a few options there to really segment and hone in on exactly the data that you want to include in that report. And as you're used to with Optmyzr, you can choose your date ranges. So you can go as far back as you want. And this is another thing that most of you probably already know, but I do notice some of our newer customers don't know about this, but you can add as many date ranges as you wish. So if you're not happy with just the 2 date ranges that we've provided, you can click as many of these selector widgets for date ranges as you wish. We'll add it on here. And then you can change the length of each of these. And it looks like my browser is a little bit slow right here, so I'm just gonna, there we go. So it's adding one more date range. Okay, so now I can go and pick what each of these date ranges should be. But then each of these date ranges then becomes available inside of the widgets. Okay, and let me see if I can scroll down here and go on to the next one. And that's, of course, the beauty there of live demos. Sometimes you get a little bit of slowness and things not exactly working like you wish. But here we go. So here we have the data table. So the key thing here, and these are a little bit hard to set up if you don't know exactly what you're trying to put in the widget. But basically, in a data table, your segment is what's going to be 1 row per item. And then the stat, that's what's going to be in each of the column headers. So take a look here. For segments, I've got source and medium, and then for stats, I've got 5 different stats. So if you preview that, you'll notice that the source medium, for each variation, there's going to be 1 line in the report, and then these are the 5 stats that I've selected that I wanted to be included. So that's how that works. Now, if you were to include multiple segments, which you can do up to 3 segments, then it will find every single combination. So if there's 2 sources and mediums, and maybe there's 5 different, say, keywords, you would have 2 times 5 number of lines. So you'd have 10 lines on that report with the data segmented for each of those individually. Now, in the tables, you can also do sorting, right? So you might not care so much about the number of goal completions as your main thing you're looking at, but you might want to sort it on users. Or actually, I think goal completions is probably the better thing to sort it on, so you can choose that here. And now you're going to get the top 15, either descending or ascending, the top or the bottom 15 paid goal completions for these segments. And then the time-wise chart, that's the last one, so that's very simple as well. So here you can just pick from any of your metrics. From a drop-down list, you can say what period of aggregation you do, whether we aggregate it at the day level, the week, or the month. And once again, filter it as you wish. So these are the same filters we saw before. And then you can pick from the date ranges you've made available for that report. So that's what we're doing with GA. And of course, these widgets are fully integratable into your existing report. So you don't have to run a whole new separate report. You can just take an existing one and perhaps add 2 or 3 Google Analytics widgets to that. If you're interested in participating in this limited beta right now, just shoot us an email after the session, and we'll send you instructions for how to hook up your Google Analytics accounts to our system. Okay, so that's number 1. Let me switch my screen share here, and I will show you I'll show you the next thing. And by the way, I'm getting a report that some of the dropdowns I'm talking about are not showing up in the screen share. So I apologize for that. But those dropdowns, they basically include the segmentations. So go ahead and sign up for that, and you'll be able to see that once you use the product directly yourself. Okay, so let me switch here to a different screen that I've got set up. Okay, and this is the next demo. So here we have the hour of the week data insight. Many of you have already used that. And again, the distinction between data insights and one-click optimizations for us is that a data insight gives you an interesting visualization of data, but it doesn't necessarily make it easy to make a change based on that. So even if you have a great learning, you still have to go to the AdWords interface to make the change. So what we've done is we've taken that hour of the week report and we've made it an optimization. And so here's how this works now. We've added one new section to that report, and that shows you your current bid modifiers. And what you can do is you look at the data here, right? So you pick your data points. And for example, here I'm looking at a single campaign, and I'm looking at the conversions and the clicks. The conversions are charted in blue. Right, so we see that here on Thursdays we have some conversions and they happen to get, so Thursdays and Fridays seem to be good days. So maybe rather than bidding at the same level the whole week, maybe I want to bid a little bit higher at these points of the week when I have more conversions. So you can see if I hover over this bubble, and I hope you can see this, but it says it's 100% of the bid for Thursday 12 until 4 p.m. I can grab that bubble and I can drag it up or I can drag it down. And what that's going to do is it's going to set a bid modifier, a bid adjustment for that 4-hour date range. So I can take this, and so you notice too, as I hover over a bubble, it shows you a line on the top chart, and then if I just go up, I can actually hover over that and get more details about what those data points are. So I can make sure that I'm selecting exactly the right bubble here that corresponds to this peak, and I can drag that up. There is a limit right now, so in AdWords you can actually set these much higher than 250%, but that's the limit that we've put in place for now. And you can bid it all the way down to 0%, right? So if you find this time of the week is not really working for you, maybe your call center is closed, you can grab some of these bubbles, you can pull them down, and then when you apply the changes, these ad scheduling, these day parts will be applied to your campaign. And remember, this is one campaign at a time, but we figured this is kind of an easier way to do it rather than having to go into the AdWords interface where there's a lot of, it's basically a big form that you have to fill out. So we thought letting you drag little bubbles around is probably an easier and even more fun way to make these types of changes. So that's one thing that we have coming up very soon. We have that in beta as well, but in the next week or two, that'll be available to everyone. Okay, so let me move on to the next optimization that we have here. This is the keyword lasso. Now in the keyword lasso, we have made a number of changes. Whoops, kicked something over there, in case you heard that. So we've made a number of changes there in the lasso. And to remind you, the lasso really looks at the search terms, the search query report. So the searches that people have done where you didn't already have the keyword in the account. A few of the changes that we've made to make it easier in terms of a workflow is now you can inline edit any of these keywords. So if you say, for example, we don't really do any discounts, but some people seem to be searching for discounts, you can just go ahead and start typing. And then if you get out of that, you'll notice this box becomes yellow. And that indicates to you that this is now changed. This is no longer the keyword or the query from the report, but you've made a change to this. Now, discounts, it's not something you do, so you want to exclude it as opposed to include it. So what you can do is you can say make that either an ad group negative or a campaign negative keyword. And there you go. And maybe we want to make it a campaign negative exact keyword. So you change the match type right there. You could also use broad match modifiers. So you could start typing in pluses in front of some of these words. Now, that could take a long time. So what we can also do is up here, you can say for all of my keywords, I always want to use broad match modified. So just update that automatically. So now it's put a plus in front of everything. But if you said neon, that's not an important word to plus. So you can take that plus out and still do inline editing. And then you can go through and you can say, okay, this keyword maybe should have been a phrase match. So boom, it changes it to a phrase match. We've also moved these fields closer to the keywords, by the way, so that you don't have to mouse all the way across the screen to be able to do things. But really the fastest way to work through this optimization is with the keyboard. So if you tab through, and then you can use the space bar on one of these fields and that unselects it. And that way you can very quickly process your whole account. Now, sometimes you come to this optimization and you say, well, you know, Optmyzr, these are for the most part pretty good, but this is a really lousy suggestion here. This one, I don't like this one. So what you can do now is you can say archive selected. And when you archive that, the next time you run this optimization, you will not get the same suggestion again. So it's a way to make sure that if you run this optimization on a weekly basis, you're not going to be spending your time every week making the same changes that you don't like and sort of unchecking those boxes. So that's another thing you can do. And then for those of you who haven't played with this, but you have this little icon here, which adds keywords to notes. And this is really useful if you have some keywords that you don't want to add as negatives or positives, but you do want to remember them, right? Maybe it's an idea for a new ad group. Maybe it's an idea for a new landing page, or it's just something unusual. You hadn't expected it and you want to remember to do something with it later. So as opposed to you having to write it down on a piece of paper, you can just click on that icon and then it puts it in your keyword notes, which at the end of the process, you can simply download as a CSV file right here. So that makes it very easy. Okay, now some accounts are kind of small and don't have a lot of data. If that ever happens, you can click on this new turbo mode. The turbo mode removes some of the filters that we've done that we typically think are the right way to look at the data. But it's really nice because it gives you more keyword suggestions even for smaller accounts. And in many cases, they're actually pretty good. So go ahead and give that a try. Okay, and here's the kicker. So this optimization, I think most of you have probably already worked with this. But I just did this optimization on a Bing account. Bing is really challenging to manage because they don't have a lot of automations. This page you're looking at looks exactly the same like an AdWords account. But if you look up here in the URL, you'll notice that the format is slightly different. And this is actually a Bing optimization. So this is the first optimization that we've transferred from AdWords to Bing. And it's nice too, because the workflow that you're used to in AdWords, now you can do the exact same thing with your Bing accounts using the Bing data. And just like with AdWords, if you click the blue button that says add these to my account, that is a real-time change that we do through the API. So there's no caching. As soon as you click that button, we're going to be adding these keywords to your account. So this is the first of many. We know people are pretty excited about being able to manage Bing in a little bit of an easier way. So if that's of interest to you, send us an email. For this one, we do have a bit of a waiting list, but we'll try to get you in on that beta as soon as you want. Okay, so that's the next thing I wanted to show you. So let me move on in the couple of minutes that I've got left here. A couple more things. So we've also taken the non-converting keyword, which is still in beta, but we've enhanced it a little bit. And the key thing that I wanted to point out in this particular optimization is it's the first one that uses multiple date ranges. So a lot of people were asking us, can you please let us set our own date ranges for the optimizations? And so now we do that, right? So now you can decide to pull data from the last 30 days, which is what we do by default, but you can go further back. And sometimes that gives you more data to do an optimization. So you have that level of flexibility. But what's nice here is this optimization says these keywords have no conversions. But should you be deleting these, or are these keywords that used to have conversions in the past and something's gone wrong along the way, and maybe deleting the keyword is not the right thing to do? And so that's why we added these columns with data for the last 365 days. And so now this is interesting because now you see, okay, this keyword, Ticketmaster, has no conversions for the past 30 days. But over the last year, it had 34 conversions. So clearly it was doing something in the past, and now it's not doing that anymore. So let's go and figure out what happened to this. Let's go and investigate this keyword. Whereas these first three, well, they've had no conversions in the last 30 days, but they've also had no conversions over the past year. So these are probably just wasting money. And these three are probably okay to just go ahead and pause. Now, with these filters as well, you can say the 365 data becomes available as a filter. So you can set your filters here depending on whatever level you want. And then you could even save that. So that's the non-converting keyword optimization. The final thing I'll show you is enhanced scripts. So some of you are familiar with AdWords scripts, and Search Engine Land, by the way, just ran a great 3-part series the last week of December about AdWords scripting, intro level, intermediate, and expert. I contributed to that, so I think it's a pretty good piece for that reason. But if you haven't played with AdWords scripts, they're really powerful ways to put your account on autopilot. Now, the problem of scripts, though, is that it is a script, right? So you do have to have a little bit of programming knowledge to be able to work with these. And for as easy as Google has tried to make it, and we've tried to make it using some of our initial batches of scripts, you still have to go into the code to make changes. And the reality is, no matter what script you have, there's always going to be some tiny little tweaks you want to make it work just right for you. And that could be something as simple as who should be the person who gets the email that says this script just ran. We just ran a report. We just added a bunch of keywords. What's the email that should go to? That's a customization that requires going into the code. So that's why we came up with enhanced scripts. We said there should be an easier way to manage scripts. So now what you do is you come here, you're in a particular account, and you pick the script that you want to run. So in this case, we want to run the add template stats report. So I'm going to pick that here. And now you get the button that says edit settings. So rather than you having to go into the JavaScript code in your AdWords account and potentially breaking it, you forget a comma, that code will break. But now what you can do is you can use a nice form to fill out the information that you want. And if you're ever not sure what we're asking for, just hover over the little question mark. And I don't know if you can see this on your end, but for me, it now shows a little help bubble that says what is expected in this field. So something as simple as who's the person receiving the email and who should have access to the spreadsheet that contains the results. Well, there you go. If you wanted to change that, just change it in there or put in a comma and add more people to it. You save those settings. And then once you save the settings, you get a button that says download. Now, the script that you download from here is very similar to what you would do with Google Analytics. You get a piece of JavaScript code. You just put that on whatever website you want to track. Well, here it's the same. You don't have to go and modify the code. You just download it, but now you put it inside of your AdWords account in the AdWords script section. And the way the system works is every time you execute a script, the system talks to our system and says, for this account, what are the settings you want us to use? What are the email addresses, for example? And based on that, it executes the script with those settings. And now, of course, what's beautiful, if you maintain multiple accounts, you can maintain different settings for each of these accounts. And by the way, we do have the MCC level script available every time. So rather than having to put the code into 50 different accounts, now you put it into a single account, into a single MCC account, and the system just talks to us and figures out what settings to use. Whenever the script runs, either successfully or not successfully, it puts it into the log. So now you have a single place where you can come and you can say, oh, okay, the report is ready. Let me go and copy that URL and take a look at the data that's in there. So a really, we believe, much easier way to be able to do AdWords scripts. So you don't have to be a programmer to be able to take advantage of the highest level of automation that exists in AdWords today. So that's 31 minutes of some of the new stuff that we have, some of the stuff that's coming. I want to thank you all for joining us today. I'm going to stick around to Hangout a little bit longer in case people have questions. But you can always, of course, contact us, and the help is always available through here. How to use this tool, you can ask Optmyzr support. And by the way, we have videos for every single one of our tools. So on every single page, if you click on the right, that video tutorial is specific to the tool you're looking at. So that's a great place to get some more information about what's going on. So with that, everybody, thank you for joining. Have a great rest of your day, and lots of success, I hope, in 2015 together with Optmyzr. Thank you for joining.